Many of you have been following the Liberals' latest censorship bill, Bill C63, the online harms bill. This is a super dangerous bill. It has been rightly panned as a massive incursion on Canadian civil liberties by virtually every civil society group in Canada. Major concerns across the political spectrum on Bill C63. So the Liberals this week announced a very sneaky and very insidious proposal to ram this bill through the House of Commons. It got some mainstream media attention, but I want you to understand exactly how the Liberals are trying to trick Canadians into accepting censorship with this latest play. So I'm going to break it down for you in technical detail, because it's not really being explained in the mainstream media. And I want to also explain to you what Conservatives have announced this afternoon that we're going to do to stop this. So before I do this though, I'm going to direct your attention to a link that's in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the video description. If you're watching this on Facebook, it's in the comments. The link there is an article that I've written that outlines all of this, including links to different bills, different articles, so that you can read this for yourself. But more importantly, because of Justin Trudeau's censorship agendas, Bill C11, C18, there's news bans, now C63, I need a way to directly communicate with you, because Justin Trudeau has, tried to stop information like this from getting out. So if you click the link that's in the comments, and more importantly, click subscribe, it allows me to directly communicate with you on this issue, and it also gives you everything that I'm about to talk about, so you can read it and share it with friends and help me get the word out. Again, this is so important to click subscribe. It's completely free, and it allows me to directly communicate with you on what's happening on this really important issue. So for those of you who have been watching the news, and before I get into it, please also share this video. This is a critical video. There's so many people online who want to stop Bill C63. I need you to help me get the word out by sharing this video. Okay, so what's happening? So Bill C63, as you know, it's the online harms bill, and it has that's what the Liberals are calling it, but it's really a massive censorship bill. Now, let's park the bill, like the Liberal bill, over there for a second, and let's talk about something that the Liberals have not addressed in 9 years. We know that there are legitimate problematic examples of the existing Canadian law being broken online. Many of you know people who are legitimately being, like, they would fall under the actual definition of criminal harassment, stalked online. The Liberals have done nothing about that issue, right? And they've only proposed things that would infringe on civil liberties. And they want to make you believe that we can't address issues like that without infringing on civil liberties. And that's not the case. So the Liberals have done nothing to address things like online stalking. Or, for example, many of you have written to my office about hearing stories about how kids in high school are having deep nude, AI-generated intimate images generated of them and then distributed without their consent. The Liberals have done nothing about that issue. The other thing that the Liberals haven't done is they haven't done anything to actually say what duty of care or what responsibilities online platforms have to keep kids safe while protecting your civil liberties. Liberals have done nothing on that. But what they've tried to do with this bill, Bill C63, is try to make you believe that the only way to be safe online is to have your freedom of speech taken away. And Conservatives do not believe that. So everything that I say and everything that I explain to you in this video, you have to understand that Conservatives, and I know all of you watching this, regardless of how you vote, you want to keep particularly children safe online, but you want to do that while protecting your civil liberties. So we have a plan to do that. But let's go back to Bill C63. So Bill C63 was introduced by Canada's newest Justice Minister, Arif Virani, in February of this year, okay? The bill was so bad, he tabled it in February, that the Liberals got so much blowback that the Liberals didn't actually put it up for debate in the House of Commons until June, months later. Now, typically when the Liberals want to ram something through the House of Commons, they will put it up for debate in the House. They'll allocate House time to debate. But the bill was so bad that even the Liberals were like, you can only have it, they only put it up for debate in June, okay? So then, after the House resumed sitting in September, it was debated one more time. Since then, the Liberals have, as many of you have been following, they've been refusing to hand over documents related to a massive slush fund. They're refusing and denying an order of Parliament. So the bill has not been debated in Parliament again. But the Justice Minister, Arif Virani, he is so hell-bent on getting this bill rammed through the House of Commons that he held a press conference this week and he tried to make it sound very gentle and very wonderful. And he said, I am going to split this bill. I'm going to split this bill so that some parts can pass and that others can't. So how this was reported, it sounded like, oh, well, okay, like the dangerous parts of the bill have actually been taken out. And that's not the case. That is not what Mr. Virani and the Liberals are proposing. And I'm going to walk you through exactly why this is the case. Again, the link in the comments explains this all for you, but share that article in the comments and share this video so that people understand when they hear Arif Virani is splitting the bill, the Liberals are splitting the bill. It's okay now. It is not okay. It is unsupportable. And here's why. So the bill has 4 parts. Okay, so it has 4 different sections. Part 1 of the bill contains the 3-headed censorship regulator, okay? So this is what the Liberals have talked about. If you click on the link in the comments, you'll also see too that I asked the Parliamentary Budget Officer to do analysis of this 3-headed bureaucracy in last year. It's going to cost over $200 million. But the worst part about this regulator that's in part 1 is that part 1 of Bill C63 actually proposes to kind of remove Parliament's scrutiny over what the regulator would be regulating online and what they would be enforcing. So just to say that differently, what part 1 of C63 does is the Liberals have essentially given this 3-headed censorship bureaucracy almost unfettered power to make and enforce rules about what you see and do online to a regulator, to have them do that behind closed doors without any parliamentary scrutiny. So really what they're asking people like me, elected officials, to do with part 1 is say, no. I'm just going to give all of my power over to a regulator who are filled with unelected bureaucrats, costly unelected bureaucrats, to make and come up with rules that I haven't seen. What part 1 does is it essentially commits another $200 million of your tax dollars to creating a censorship bureaucracy full of unelected bureaucrats to make and enforce rules about what you see online. So of course that's not supportable, right? That makes no sense. That is crazy. Now, what Virani has been trying to say about part 1 with some victims' rights groups is that the regulator in and of itself will support or will fix all of these problems. But even if you are going to say, even if a victims' rights group was going to consider that to be true, which it's not, but even if a victims' rights group was going to consider that to be true, the problem is that that regulator isn't going to be set up for years, right? So, and we know that a lot of these abuses, that there's child sexual exploitation happening online, there needs to be more strengthened rules now. So that is what part 1 does. Part 1 is a big, messy regulator that isn't defined in the legislation and is asking parliamentarians to abdicate their responsibility, okay? So that's part 1. Part 2 and part 3 of Bill C63 are the juicy parts that contain all of the stuff about hate speech and thought crimes and all of the stuff that's just been, there's so many videos about it online. I've written about it. You can click on the link in the comments. Again, all of this is listed in there so you can see exactly what parts 2 and 3 do, but completely unsupportable, complete incursion on Canadian civil liberties, like the worst censorship bill ever are in part 2 and part 3. Now, there's a very small section at the end of the bill, part 4. And it includes, back in 2011, under former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper, there was a bill that was passed that essentially allowed law enforcement to collect information from internet service providers when internet service providers saw digital child exploitation material, that's the more correct term now, the more accurate term for child pornography, to be reported to police so that police could catch these perverts. So that is the bill that Stephen Harper put in place in 2011. Now, Part 4 of C63 contains a few small measures that would strengthen that bill. And a lot of groups, a lot of civil liberties groups that oppose every other part of C63 have said that this part, like in order to protect children from violent predators and online child pornographers that produce child sexual exploitation material, that some of those measures could be supportable. Now, so let's go back to Arif Virani saying that he's going to split the bill. So when he came out and said, I'm going to split the bill, I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe he's going to abandon parts 1, the regulator, part 2 and 3, the draconian hate speech, thought crime, censorship stuff, and just proceed with part 4. But of course, what do you think he did? Do you think he said, let's put part 1, 2, and 3 in one section and part 4 in another? Of course he didn't. Of course he didn't do that. He wants to put part 1, the censorship regulator, with part 4, and then hive off parts 2 and 3 into a different section. So the reason why I'm explaining this to you into great detail is because some of the media reports made it sound like he was abandoning all of the stuff that could potentially, like, very negatively censor what you see and do online. And that's just not the case. So again, the link in the comments and in the video description outlines all of this, and you need to share this and you need to read this so when people hear that the bill is being split, that they understand what is actually happening. Okay, so now that he said that he wants to split the bill this way, what he's been trying to do, and he's trying to create this narrative, right, that is beneficial to him. Let's walk through why he wouldn't just hive off parts 1, 2, and 3 and only focus on the rules that would strengthen a bill from former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Well, the answer is pretty obvious, right? The Liberals, this isn't the first time the Liberals have tried to introduce like what is in Bill C63. They actually tried to do this with Bill C36 in a previous parliament in 2021. So they're married to this concept that in order for Canadians to be safe online, which I don't like, there's actually like when you review these bills, it's like, well, what are you actually going to do here? It's not about that for them. It really is about having these censorship regulators put a chill on Canadian speech. So the reason why Virani isn't interested in splitting the bill this way, or the Liberals aren't, is because they're so attached to censorship, right? Now, that doesn't mean that as legislators, right, we should be looking for ways to protect Canadians online without doing what? Violating civil liberties. So this is why back in September of this year, I tabled something called Bill C412. C412 does what? It aims to protect Canadians online without violating any civil liberties, without impinging on freedom of speech. Surprise, surprise, you can have your cake and eat it too in this situation, right? The other thing about C412, and I'm going to get into what it does and why it's a better alternative in a minute. The other thing about C412 is that it is actually a legislated duty of care. It has that list that you, as a Canadian citizen, can see what Parliament is proposing and then be accountable. Then I'm accountable back to you to explain what we're doing, rather than what Virani is proposing and the Liberals is just porting that all into a regulator, letting them have massive powers to make rules behind closed doors, right? No. C412 says, here's what we're proposing, here's why, and here's why it doesn't infringe on liberal civil liberties, and why it's better for victims is that it could be passed immediately and come into force immediately and provide protections and like help catch perverts immediately, right? Okay, so what does C412 do? So C412, which is supported by the Conservative Party of Canada, does 3 things. First of all, using existing definitions and laws around criminal harassment, it gives law enforcement more tools that when it meets a law enforcement, when a judge finds that certain behavior has met a criminal standard, that it can help find out who is stalking somebody online and issue restraining orders so that they can't keep stalking people online. I know people who are watching this right now. I know it's either you or someone you know has been in this situation. And this has been something that has been lacking for a long time in Canada, and Justin Trudeau has not addressed this in 10 years. So C412, the Conservative bill, does that. The second thing that it does is it goes through a specific, clear list of what online platforms need to do to keep kids safe online. None of that proposes any incursions on Canadian charter rights, civil liberties. So you can read through all this. Again, the receipts are in the link in the comments. I want to show this all to you so that you can see what we are doing, right? And what we are proposing. The other thing, there's been a lot of people say, like, okay, well, I have concerns about digital IDs. Are you proposing a digital ID? Absolutely not. In fact, C412 actually contains a section in it that says it expressly prohibits the use of a digital ID, right? Bill C63, silent on that. That could be proposed by a regulator. We don't know, right? But yet the Liberals want to push this through. The last thing that C412 does is it contains provisions that would update existing language in the criminal code regarding the non-consensual distribution of intimate images. So right now, and again, this was under former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, we made laws that said that it is illegal to distribute intimate images without someone's consent, because there's been many high-profile cases in Canada of people tragically dying or committing suicide after this happening. Where now what C412 does is update the laws to ensure that if those images, highly realistic, we're not talking about cartoons or anything, highly realistic, intimate images of somebody generated by AI, that falls under those laws too. You'll remember there was a case in Winnipeg of a high school where this happened, and the RCMP did not lay charges. We want to give law enforcement officials tools to prevent what is already legal that technology has advanced on from harming children. These are common sense measures. These are things that I'm sure you could agree with. And we drafted this bill particularly thinking in mind, how do we ensure that Canadians keep civil liberties like freedom of speech? And how do we ensure that we're not spending $200 million on a costly regulator that essentially the Liberals are asking parliamentarians to abdicate their rights to, right? So that is the difference between C63 and C412, the Liberal bill and a Conservative actual action bill to protect people online without violating civil liberties. So Varani is proposing to put parts 1, the regulator, and part 4 into one bill of C63. What Conservatives are saying is, you know what, you guys have had 9 years and we don't trust you. Parts 1, 2, and 3 of those bills, that terrible stuff, it needs to be withdrawn. It needs to be opposed. Take it away. What Conservatives would support is this, Bill C412, the Conservative bill, to advance to committee stage in a form of a study, a pre-study. Just let our committee look at it so that, because what the Liberals have done is they've rammed C63 to a pre-study stage at the Justice Committee. So we're saying, look, if you're looking at your crappy option that infringes on civil liberties, you should be looking at a better option, which admittedly is quite nonpartisan at the same time. So that's step number 1 that Conservatives are asking the Liberals to do. And we're asking them to abandon parts 1, 2, and 3. Should the Liberals consider a new bill which contains very precise, very narrow provisions to strengthen the bill that former Prime Minister Stephen Harper approved with regard to catching perverts who distribute online child sexual exploitation material online? That's something we could look at. But for the Liberals to come out and try and trick Canadians into saying that somehow by putting part 1 and part 4 that C60 together is C63 is better, it's wrong. And it's actually, it actually, what makes me so angry and why I'm so feisty on this, outside of the civil liberties concerns, which are huge, is that he's actually kind of lying to victims groups, right? Because what he's saying is, oh, no. By doing this, this is going to make everything better and like you don't have to worry about civil liberties, but it's not true. It's actually not true. And Conservatives have provided him with a much better option, right? So this is what the Liberals try and do to you folks, is they try to, they're essentially lying, right? Like C63 is a flawed bill. It has to be opposed. It has to be opposed. But conservatives have a better plan. And because I'm transparent and want you to understand what we're doing, because this is such an important, critical issue for so many reasons, is I've written all of this to you. I've put all of the details in the link that's in the comments or the video description for you to read, for you to parse through, for you to subscribe to for free, and for you to share. So when you hear that the Liberals have somehow made C63 better, do not believe what's happening. That is not what's happened here at all. But at the same time, conservatives have been responsible and put forward alternate legislation that protects Canadians online while eminently protecting civil liberties. And that's what good government should be doing. And it is shameful that after 9 years, the Liberal government have not been able to figure this out. It's just absolutely disgusting. You know, I'll just close my rant with this. Arif Harani and the Liberals have countless bureaucrats in the Department of Justice. They've been doing this for years now, and they have not been able to solve this problem. I want to give credit. This is something that I rarely am able to do. But like, I have a small team of staff and a small team of colleagues that worked on this bill and this alternate approach for 8 months. So how are we able to do what the Liberals were not able to do in 9 years? And the answer to that is because we're common sense. And we're not forcing you to accept a false dichotomy that somehow to be safe, you have to be censored or give up your civil liberties. And that's where we need better government in this country. So if you want to help me out and my conservative colleagues in our fight to have more protections for Canadians online without, again, just to completely emphasize this, without impinging charter rights, without impinging civil liberties, click on the link that's in the comments, read the article, share it, click subscribe, and share this video. I know that we can win, folks. Common sense will prevail. Working hard for you in Ottawa. Have a great day.